At the end of each financial period, every business entity is required to provide a set of complete and accurate financial statements along with the documentation for each reporting key date. Preparing and providing these statements requires you to complete a sequence of interdependent tasks in a specific, well-defined order and requires input from across your organization. Financial closing in SAP S/4HANA Cloud offers easy-to-use task scheduling that harnesses all of the involved apps and processes into a streamlined process that allows you to define, process, and monitor entity close. In this video, we'll focus on the Define Closing Tasks app, which is the starting point of the closing cycle. When I open the app, I see two tabs, one containing a list of existing templates, the other containing task lists. So what is a template? Well, it's where I define a set of tasks, the type of structure, the dependencies between the tasks, the duration, and so on. This helps me standardize my closing processes according to our defined best practices. I'll show you how I use these templates later in detail. Once I've defined a template, I use it to create a task list for a specific entity close instance. First, I select the plus sign. Then I enter a description. This description is language independent, so it will always remain in this language, but I can create translations for the description at the bottom of the screen for colleagues who work in different languages. Then I have to enter a unique identifier for this template. I can also add responsible users and authorization groups, or specify notification scenarios defining whether and when users shall receive email notifications. Next, I choose a factory calendar containing working days, public holidays, and so on. If I want to, I can maintain the ledger and the accounting principle. I don't need to right now, so we'll skip that. And that takes care of the general settings. Next, I have to decide how my closing structure should look. I can choose from pre-delivered hierarchy types, company code, plant, company code and plant, or without a hierarchy. This last option means that I can define the structure myself. Here, I want to structure the task by company codes. When I expand the hierarchy, I can see that each company code defined in the system is generated as a folder in the hierarchy structure. But my structure doesn't contain any tasks yet. I need to add them. I can do so manually by entering a note with an instruction for manual processing by a colleague, for example, or I can create tasks from templates. SAP delivers predefined jobs and Fiori apps that I can add here as tasks to be processed during the entity close. Let's look for Depreciation Run. We get several suggestions like Depreciation Posting Run. Note that the results list differentiates between Fiori apps that are connected to entity close and jobs, which can be directly scheduled and executed using the Process Closing Tasks app. Another way to create tasks is to use task template sets. This is the most convenient way to create tasks. The task template sets are reference models offering many of the standard closing applications and jobs in a meaningful sequence and with predefined interdependencies. Let's go ahead and select this task template set. So what happens now is that all of the tasks of the task template set are added to our template. Now when I expand my hierarchy, I can see that for each sub-ledger area, such as accounts receivable, accounts payable, or general accounting, a subfolder has been added. Under general accounting, we have fixed assets, and under fixed assets, I find our depreciation posting run. So rather than adding these tasks manually, I can just use the task template set and have it all done for me. While we're here, let's look at the depreciation posting run. I can add responsible users for this task, so I'll go ahead and add John, our GL accountant, who is responsible for this task. Now, because I used a task template set, some of the settings are default, but I can change them, like closing type, for example, or when the depreciation run should start. Should it start immediately as soon as all of the predecessors are complete and due? Then I just leave this checked. Or I can schedule an offset date. I could set a 10-day offset, which means that the task is scheduled for 10 days after the key date of the entity close. I can also indicate how long the task should take. And I can decide whether this task should be a part of the critical path. That is, that this task must be finished on time in order to prevent the entire sequence from being delayed. If I do not select this option for any tasks, the critical path is determined automatically. I can set conditions for job parameters, which are taken into account when I schedule the job from the Process Closing Tasks app. I do this only for parameters that are not derived automatically from the hierarchy structure. Company codes, for example, are derived from the structure, so I won't touch them here. Now I have a nice visual representation of the dependencies between tasks. So, now we just maintained everything for this one task, but if necessary, we have to change all the other tasks as well. We then apply and save the changes. And now we have a template that we can use to generate a task list for a specific entity close. In the Templates tab, I select my template and then choose Generate Task List. I enter the reporting date, this is the key date. Then I enter the fiscal year and the posting period the key date belongs to and select Month End Closing. And I want to release this task immediately so users can directly process the tasks. And finally, I generate the task list. If we now navigate to the Task List tab, I see our new task with the status Released. The processors assigned to this task can now process their task in the Process Closing Tasks app, which we will demonstrate in our next video.